phones, that would be great. You're welcome to keep your video on if you want to be able to be a face there so Sylvia can see that she has an audience of people. These things are a little bit tricky over Zoom, as I'm sure you've all been experiencing at this point. We do have that disconnect between people, and I know I'm really missing that. So I'm looking forward to being able to do this in person, and we have such a great spot at the museum. We have an outdoor fireplace, so hopefully as things change here, maybe we can have you back, Sylvia, and we can do this around the fire and, you know, do knitting stories, and I think something like that would be really fun. So before I go on too far, I'd just like to say I'm Wendy Johnson. I'm not Lee Boyko, as it says I am. That's the director of the museum, and we all work under his Zoom account, so I'm actually Wendy. And my helper is Angela, who you probably won't see on here, but I'd like to thank her right now for being here helping us from behind the scenes. And so I'm the program manager at the Sooke Region Museum, and we've just started taking all our programming online. So we're really happy to have Sylvia here with us as one of our early programs, online programs. And it was really exciting when we got our book into the museum in the gift shop, and our gift shop manager let me know about her book, and so Sylvia and I connected from there. So if you are looking to buy a copy of Sylvia's book, this is it right here. It's absolutely beautiful, and we have them in the museum gift store, so they're available there if you're interested. So yeah, let's get started. On to Sylvia. She's got lots of great things to share with us today, and I'm sure we're all excited to hear what you have to say. So thank you, Sylvia, for being with us. And we'll open the platform for questions and comments, and we'll address those at the end of the presentation. So thank you all for being with us, and over to Sylvia.
Thank you so much, Wendy and Angela. I'm Sylvia Olsen, and I think in trying to scan, I think some of you do know me and lots of you don't. Welcome, Sooke. I love Sooke. I'm from Victoria, so I have spent lots of time in Sooke. Right now, I am in the territory of the WSÁNEĆ people. Those are my family's people, so my children are WSÁNEĆ people. And as they always say, this is, and I'm saying this, I know to people who are in Sooke, but they say this is the center of the universe. This is the most beautiful place in the universe. And I know they say it because if we all feel that way about where we live, we'll take care of it. And so I'm from the beautiful Salish Sea territory, and I'm looking out my window and can see glimpses of it. I'm a writer. I do housing. First Nations housing is kind of my professional hat. I knit, and I'm a grandmother and a mother, and have all sorts of hats, just like probably everybody on this call. By the time you live this long, you have a lot of hats. So what we're going to do today, because I did this crazy thing 5 years ago, which was this road trip, and then I did the thing, which is write about the road trip. So you do a road trip, and then you write about a road trip. Was kind of like taking a road trip again, because you kind of cycle back through it. And now I have been on, being interviewed and many times about this road trip. So now I'm kind of on the third road trip, where I'm cycling back over it, thinking about not only the road trip, but writing about the road trip and what that all meant to me. And it has all become quite an extraordinary thing, because this book that you're looking at, and I hope you love the cover, because of course I had to knit a cover. How can you have a book about knitting without knitting the cover? This book was published by Douglas and McIntyre, and I've never published with Douglas and McIntyre. And they gave me, part of their service is a publicist. And this publicist, she lives in Toronto, and her name is Karina. And oh my gosh, she is sending this book everywhere. So I have never really actually run into that with my books. I've published 20 books, but none of them have been promoted like this book. It's quite something. I'm on next Friday on a syndicated CBC show, 3 hours of being interviewed across the country, between 8 and 18 interviews. So breathe, Sylvia, and this is a brand new experience for me. And I just want to say to Sooke, thank you for having me today, because this is the first. I have a whole lineup of this kind of presentation online here, all across the country: Winnipeg, the Kootenays, Nova Scotia, and you're the guinea pigs because this is the first one. So I'll figure out how to do it after you, but what better audience is there than Sooke to try it out with? So so welcome. I can't see you all, so if you're putting your hands up and doing this, I can't see you. I think Wendy can see you. So we'll go through this just because of how strange the optics are here. We'll go through the slideshow first, and then I'll really try to make as much time for conversation as possible, because I want to get rid of my slideshow so I can see who you are, because I know you're going to be people that I want to meet. Okay. Wendy, do you want to, I'll just ask, is there anything anybody wants to ask before I start? Because if somebody puts their hand up with a question before I get started.
We've had a comment from Nancy Wood, and she says, congratulations, lots of work, but you deserve it. And that came right after your CBC comment.
Thanks.
About being on CBC and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's everything we have so far.
Okay, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna get going now. And if you really do want to stop me, it'll be Wendy that'll see you do it, not me. So here's the book, A Knitting Odyssey. I called it Finding Canada. And so this is the thing when you write a book. Douglas and McIntyre said, we like Unravelling Canada, after they'd read it. And I like their title better. So this is what it is. Okay, hold on. How come that happened? Okay, so this was an awesome art piece that a friend of ours did to kind of get the feel of Victoria to Newfoundland. That's Tex, my amazing husband. We weren't married at this time, but we got married got married 2.5 years ago, and all is well in that. And he was an amazing road trip partner. In the book, you'll find so much about Tex. I call him the Canadian Shield, because he's from Ontario and he is just this solid Canadian. And as you'll find out when you read the book, I'm an ambiguous Canadian. I am a person from British Columbia, and we don't feel quite so centered Canada as people from Ontario to start. And as some of you know about me, I lived most of my life on a First Nations reserve. And when you're a little blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl, I was 17 when I moved on, and you move there and you come from middle-class Canada and you look at your country, you go, oh my goodness. You know, there's just there's a lot to try to cope with. So I have always been a questioning kind of Canadian that says we could do a lot better. And so that really was at the heart of me going across the country as well. Oh, there I am. And we went in this amazing Dodge Caravan. It's like, seriously, the thing that a lot of us said we'd never drive. That's what we took across Canada, and they run like a charm. So we loaded it up, books and knitting kits, and we went and we left. And that was me going, here I go. This was in 2015, so that is actually 6 years ago. Right now, we would have been on the road. We were actually going out to do, it started as a book tour, because this book had just come out. And it started as just a little book tour. We'll just drive around BC and do a book tour. And then we thought, well, if we're going to do a book tour, maybe we should do a little knitting demonstration as well as the book tour. And then it went from there. And the publisher of this book just got inundated by requests for one, a book launch, and for two, a knitting class. So I designed this simplest toque you can ever imagine, to basically just carry the thing. Stranded knitting, a basic toque, beautiful West Coast wool. And what we did is we spent 3 hours knitting and talking to people across the country in about 40 places, 60 different sessions, 800 people. Seriously, it got right out of hand. It really did, but it was pretty awesome. It was pretty awesome. So this was the book that I had written before. This was my master's thesis. We did a film on it. Lots of you have probably seen it. The history of Coast Salish knitters. My knitting world was overwhelmed by First Coast Salish knitters from a young age. And this is a history. It's a serious history of the Coast Salish knitters. And that was kind of the story that I took on the road. That was my story that I offered people. I wanted to tell a story, and I wanted to hear their stories. And the story that I told was the one that I have lived and the one that I had researched, and this was it. And those were the days. Those were the days that I researched and that I lived with when Cowichan sweaters were a thing, a huge thing. And that's why I'm here. That was my husband. We're now separated, but he was my husband for many, many years. And those are my two kids. And those are Cecilia Smith's little sweaters. And that was my life. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I did what I did. And come on, doesn't get much cuter than that. Aww. That's Adam on the left. Adam is now the MLA of Saanich North and the islands out here where we live. You probably have heard of him, people from around here, the Green MLA, one of them. And that's Joni, his sister, who is a elected council for Sartlip First Nation. And she's been elected council for something like 16 years, or yeah, something like that. So those are two, and there's one little girl missing in that picture, and that's Heather. And my other child is named Joaquim de Castro Alves, and we inherited him from Brazil. So that's my family. But here is my roots in the Coast Salish world is these two kids and the other one, Heather. So there's me in my glory days in my Cowichan sweater and this sweater was one of the last sweaters that my beloved mother-in-law, Laura Olsen, knit. And a lot of my writing, you will hear about my relationship with my mother-in-law, Laura. So I took the story of the Cowichan sweater on the road because I believe it's one of the best stories. As a historian, it's one of the best Canadian stories. It's a story about ingenuity. It's a story about economy. It's a story about racism. It's a story about colonization. It's a story about land. It's a story about enjoyment. It's a story about feeding the family. So that was my story that I took on the road because that's the one that I had lived. And I just think as a Canadian, these are the stories that help us be Canadian. And I was talking to knitters, of course. So we talked some of the specifics about the Cowichan sweater, which with this group I won't do because it will take too long. But there's some really cool specifics that make a Cowichan sweater the only North American knitting tradition. I think that's important for us all to know. There's Farrell knitting, there's you know, all those other knitting traditions, but we got our own. And I don't say we do, we don't own it, but North America has a knitting tradition, and this is it. And it's the only one that we can claim as truly North American, is the Coast Salish knitters tradition. So, and that's key because it has a, they have a very, they use this kind of color work. Lots of other people do too, but this is the color work that they use. So, of course, cowichan sweaters are very Canadian. And all of us might not like the politics on the screen, but we love that Trudeau's 1982 Christmas card, he was wearing his cowichan sweater. That's important. And if you look at, see that those odd looking little birds on that sweater, and this is Justin Trudeau. So here's Joni, my daughter, and there's those little children. Here they are. They reproduced this sweater, and this is them with Justin Trudeau before he even was the leader of the Liberal Party. And none of them look like that anymore. Just saying. But anyway, that was kind of fun. And this is Joni. And I see myself as a bridge with Coast Salish knitting from my mother-in-law, Laura, to Joni, who has the knitting gene. And Joni, interesting visually in our family that Joni looks like her grandmother, and Madison, that's Joni's daughter, looks like me. And Madison is actually quite a good knitter. Oh my gosh. And the cutest kid ever. She's graduating in a couple of weeks. So what happened with this road trip is I ended up sort of being, and no, this wasn't one of the plans, as I've said to you. I sort of ended up being the antique roadshow kind of thing, because everybody brought their sweaters to the sessions and said, "Is this a real cowichan? How old do you think this is?" Because I did put the word out. I want to meet the oldest sweater in Canada, and so people just brought their stuff, and we spent a lot of time analyzing sweaters, which was really fun because, as we all know, every sweater tells a story. So this is in Winnipeg, but this was part of what happened throughout the whole time. We started in Cowichan. Where else would you start? The Cowichan School District asked me to do a workshop with their teachers, which was kind of fun. Because knitting, in fact, is in the schools. Everybody likes it. Madison, my granddaughter, is knitting in grade 12. What the heck? And from there, of course, all us islanders, you can't go on a road trip without that early morning ferry. And off we are. Now you're going to see a lot of knitting workshops and knitting places. And I'm not going to spend too much time on them, but I'm just going to get you the feel of a road trip as you see just hordes, literally, and hordes of mostly women coming to tell knitting stories, to listen to knitting stories, and to knit together. It was literally a phenomena. I think there was more than 800 people that had attended these classes by the time we finished the 6 weeks on the road. This is in if anybody knows it, it's Wet Coast Wools in Vancouver on 4th Avenue, I think. And this is what I mean by the knitting roadshow, because people brought their sweaters with the strangest configurations, like that collar there and the buttons. And this woman had added her pockets and proudly wore this sweater and had worn it for years. She'd bought it at a secondhand. And that was part of the story here, is the commitment people have to their old sweaters. If there's anything that shocked me, this is a very elegant woman, extremely elegant woman. And I'm just saying, that's not a very elegant sweater, but she wears it all the time and just adores it. So there's that. This was the Guild in Vancouver again. Just I was shocked at how many people were showing up. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories, and one of them is going to come from this group. The woman that I'm going to tell you about is sitting out to the far right. You can't see her. Vernon, Twist of Yarn. There is a story here about the yarn shop owners as well. They're a whole, an amazing group of people that do economy in a different way, and have a different kind of capital way of looking at capital and their investments. It's a much more communal kind of a business than what most normal businesses are. And here they are again. This was it on the road. This was right on Okanagan Lake. Just a stunningly beautiful day. The people brought their kids and they played outside and sat for 3 hours and knit together and told stories together. Kelowna. Now it's interesting. So I'm to begin with, I'm just like, wow, there's just so much of this. Wow, there's just so many people. Oh man, like, and but really quick, you start to realize that Vernon's actually different than Kelowna. And we went to Armstrong, and it was very different than Kelowna and Vernon. And now you're starting to see your country through a more nuanced lens. Like, okay, even the knitters, even the kind of wool that's sold in each shop has a relationship to the culture of the community. That's in Kelowna. Lots of mothers brought their daughters. That was kind of a theme. And that is my gorgeous husband. And so all the photos that you are seeing were taken by Tex, except for this one, because I took this picture of him. But he has all sorts of photos of this, which was wonderful. And the other thing that Tex did is I knew right away when we were in these sessions, because I asked people to bring their stories. Everybody brought a sweater story or a knitting story. And Tex had a little book and he wrote down notes about all the stories. And that's actually the basis for one part of the book that I've written, is the stories that he wrote down, so that we could remember them together and I could write about those stories. And my publisher was in Winlaw, which is in the Kootenays, and we needed to stop, fill back up with books. This is a bookseller's dream. And fill back up with knitting kits for people. And so there we are, filling back up and getting ready to get back on the road again. And this is in the Slocan Valley. And here is the publisher of the first book, not the book that I've got out now, but the one that we were taking on the road. This is Diane from Sono Nis, who published Knitting Stories. And talking about personalities or character of place, this is a one-room schoolhouse, as you can see. And it's been taken over by the women of the community. These women own this building. It is the most gorgeous building. Look at this. And this is their place. These women own this place. It was quite astounding. And I want to tell you, check the time because I'm going to have to move quickly, a story. Because when we were in Vancouver, all the women were bringing their sweater stories, and a lot of them were, I knit this for my boyfriend. I knit this for my boyfriend. And then I split up with my boyfriend, and I don't know where the sweater went, but whatever sort of story that is. And this one woman was sitting there in Vancouver, a very sophisticated woman. And she says, wait a minute, I'm going to go home and I'm asking my husband about that ugly sweater that he will not take off. He has worn that sweater since I met him, and it's got ugly like snowflakes on it, and they're not in the right place, and it doesn't fit him, and the sleeves are too long, and it's been knit really badly. I'm going home and I'm going to ask him if there's a story behind that sweater. So everybody thought that was such fun. I got into the Kootenays, And in this group, in fact. And this woman said, well, the first time I knit a sweater, I knit it for my boyfriend. That was really ugly. The sleeves were way too long and it had these really ugly snowflakes and they weren't even in the right place. And it didn't fit him. And he never took it off. He would never take that sweater off. I don't know where he is now. We've been separated for a long time. I'm not sure that I know where he is either, but maybe he's in Vancouver. It's very funny. Just more of the energy around this. It's pretty astounding for you knitters in the crowd to be around all that wool. That's Lethbridge. We got to Lethbridge at an interesting time because it was 3 or 4 days after the earth-shattering election in Alberta, where the NDP got in. So the newspaper man that interviewed me in Lethbridge said, "Oh, I understand that the knitters are going to get together and that they love to gossip." Yeah, he didn't go over well with me at all. But in fact, the knitters of Alberta were not getting around to gossip. They were sitting around talking politics, seriously. Lethbridge was beside itself angry about the election. We went north, Calgary wasn't so bad, and Edmonton was ecstatic. So by talking to the knitters, we got the whole picture of the election. It was really quite interesting. Okay, first, this is the treasure of Canada, Custom Woolen Mills, Carstairs, Alberta, Industrial Revolution machines, making wool, local wool, astounding place. Maddie, this is the daughter of the people who started this. Wool is a new generation. These are not the old people running these businesses. These are the new people. Maddie has a doctorate in some kind of science or whatever, and she dropped it to run the wool business. It's amazing what's going on. And this is just an amazing place if you ever get to go visit it. There it is. They bought an old train station and that's where they live. That's just out of Calgary. Yes, Tex did learn how to knit. And like I said, by the time we got to Edmonton, they were smiling because when we were in Lethbridge, I don't know who got this NDP in. By the time we got to Edmonton, we did. So it was really kind of fun. I'm a little political myself, so it was kind of fun. Saskatchewan, there wasn't a lot. We had one, we went to Saskatoon. And this was, now, I do want to just say a couple of words about Winnipeg. Winnipeg is a Canadian, this is the heart of Canada. This is where we started. We started Canada with a revolution in Winnipeg. And this fabulous woman from the Arts Council said, you need to go both to McNally Robinson here, and you need to go to the Arts Council on Main Street here, and you will see both sides of Winnipeg. Winnipeg is a very different city depending on where you do your sessions. So we got to see both. We got to see the humans right. Where else should there be a human rights museum than in Winnipeg? And where else should we be talking about human rights and working on it with anything other than knit bombing or crochet bombing as this is? So it was a significant, in the book, you will find a lot of me writing a lot about what Winnipeg means to me, because that is it's the center of Canada, the dead center, and it is the center of the struggle that we have with the peoples of Canada, French, Métis, First Nations, immigrants. It's a fabulous kind of Canadian story and Canadian place. And the museum has this amazing alabaster walkway. So if you need enlightenment, it was quite a enlightening experience for me in Winnipeg, and you'll see that in the book. Oh my gosh, Ontario is bigger than the whole rest of Canada itself. It seems like when you're driving through it. This is Texas country. He loves Ontario. I had the most amazing trip through Ontario. Quick, a story. We had way too many places to go. And then the publisher got this call from Sioux Lookout. Where is Sioux Lookout and who cares, right? No, you have to come to Sioux Lookout because we have this amazing Sioux Lookout citizen. And here she is, this elderly woman down in the corner. And her name is Pat Sanders. She's an Order of Canada. And they said, you have to come because she has done so much for our community. And she's done so much knitting. She has now passed. So here she is. And what she did, one of the things she did is Sioux Lookout, also important for my story of Canada. It's a hub. It's where all the Northern First Nations people fly to go to wherever else they're going. So they come from the north and they have to fly into Sioux Lookout. So, and they also fly there to have their babies. And all the babies from the north are born, or most of them, in Sioux Lookout hospitals. And Pat said, I need to welcome them. I need to bring the communities together. I need to go visit these moms because they're often here on their own. And I need to welcome these babies. So she knit hats for every baby. And now there's third generations that come and say, here's my hat that I got brought home in. And here's this, now the Northern knitters have taken over for Pat, and they now knit 500 toques a year for those babies, for all the babies in Sioux Lookout. And everybody has a collector hat. So of course I had to knit some too. Just a great story and an amazing woman. Can't even remember. Somebody out there knows what falls this is, but we're heading out around Sault Ste. Marie, a little Ontario scenery. And this trip really was about this incredible country we have, but so many people have written about that. My gosh, the overwhelmingness of the geography. Downtown Thunder Bay, Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, filled the room to the brim and sat and knit with Thunder Bay knitters. Amazing. And then we were in the Muskokas, and a completely different population. Cold River, Purple Sock. This was an interesting thing. The woman here that's looking in on me with this blue knit sweater, told the story of knitting in the bomb shelters in Germany. She's German, and using bicycle spokes for her knitting needles. So the stories of where and why people knit were quite something. And this fellow here, I told a story about Margaret Atwood and some gloves that I knit that got given to her. And I was, I'm telling this story, and my gloves went to Margaret Atwood and she said she'd wear them. And I was all proud of my story. And this fellow here, this one that you can see is Lex, he says, I'm going to check up on that because she's my sister-in-law. So that was kind of fun. True story though. So he would have found out that it's a true story. I didn't know what to expect at Scarborough, probably not my favorite place in Canada, but one of the most exceptional women. If I had time, I'd tell you a story. Her shop is amazing. It's like home. Tex said, we were there for about 2 days, and Tex says, do these women ever go home? And I says, why would they? Look, I mean, check out where they get to hang. Like, who's going to go home? So, oldest sweater in the country. I actually so far have the oldest sweater, but I went looking for other old sweaters. I'm going to tell you a story about this one and this one. Um, both from Japanese men that were interned in the Second World War that had everything taken from them other than what was on their back. And what was on their back? Their couch and sweater. And their families have kept these sweaters. These are their family heirlooms. So these sweaters come from the early 40s at least, which makes them pretty old. And this one older than the other one, because the story on this one was it was secondhand when the grandfather got it, and the grandmother had done this cross hatching across the shoulders because it was already wearing out. So these sweaters are 80 years old, and their stories are amazing. And this one probably is too. This one was bought in the early 60s, and she said it was full of holes. It was all falling apart in the early 60s. And it takes, I always used to tell people when I sold couch and sweaters, they take 5 years to wear in and 50 years to wear out. So you don't have an old Rabbi Tack sweater, couch and sweater in the early 60s. It has to be at least 20 years old because it wouldn't be all falling apart unless it was. Another amazing Canadian knitting story is the knitted fur from, oh my gosh, there you go, my brain is gone. We have an incredible designer in Canada. She's now retired and her business is closing down, and I'm not even going to struggle. Wendy, can you see a hand go up that's going to tell me who does this knitted beaver? Does anybody in this crowd know who does the knitted beaver? She's a good friend of mine.
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. Okay.
Nothing yet.
I'll
Let
let
everyone,
you know.
we can all think on that. Who's
I
on
know.
Google? Someone pull up Google.
Yeah, pull up knitted beaver in Port Perry, and you will find my beautiful friend who did this amazing thing with knitted beaver. She took it to the runway. She's a model, and she took it to the runway in New York and had a multi-million-dollar business with it. Mary Maxim was a disappointment. There's a Canadian knitting icon for everyone. Sells only mostly acrylics, bits and bobs from China. It's no longer really a Canadian destination for knitting. I'm just going to go through these. This is Ottawa. This is Ottawa. This is Montreal. Interesting, me just going through these slides. I wore that shirt all the time. Oh my gosh, did I ever wear it a lot? I'm in every city with the same shirt on. We did this amazing thing in Quebec City. If there's a favorite city in the country, it would be it. And a little group of English speaking Quebecers came to this old church in the heart of Quebec City. It's beautiful. Fredericton, an amazing group of knitters all bunched in tight to in this little tiny corner of this shop. And this is the second treasure of a sort. This is Briggs and Little. This is another mill in Canada that has come through they had a fire, so they actually have upgraded machinery, but these are the people who make the wool. And very similar wool to what Custom Woolen Mills does. And this is another Canadian business. And like the Custom Woolen Mill story, this fellow, it's his son that runs it. So these are not companies that are going to be going anywhere. These are taken over by the next generation. McCausland's too, a little bit more antiquated than the other ones. We're now in Prince Edward Island. People brought me all kinds of stuff so that I could do my homework and answer their questions. I don't have time to do that now. Brought me knitting that was just amazing. Like this woman knits with like pins. And the fourth mill, this is in PEI where they actually make woolen mills. And we went on a ferry, which was kind of cool because I actually didn't like that bridge very much to get over to PEI. And if there is the most glorious knitting shop in the country, it would be in Gaspereau Valley in Nova Scotia, just out of Wolfville. An astounding location and just beautiful. And here's that old sweater. I'm going to go through this. Shelburne, an arts council said, come on down. We got people who want to knit. There we are in this art where they paint, but the women wanted to knit. And I had to get to the other side of the country. That was the point, because there's the Cowichan knitters on our west side of this country, this amazing, unique story, not story, but reality of women knitting for their lives. Cowichan knitters knit to feed their families. They knit to keep the Coast Salish society eating. And I needed to get to Newfoundland because Newfoundland has another group of knitters called the Nonia knitters. First of all, just these are out of order, but this is their knitting shop in St. John's, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. And the coolest thing happened here. See this beautiful, this woman owns the shop, and this beautiful girl, I call her a girl, was sitting there knitting when I walked in the door, and I looked and thought, wow, what an exquisite girl. And she looked up and she says, Auntie, oh my gosh. I met my niece who was living in Newfoundland, and there she was knitting in this. So there was quite a few people like that across the country, but nobody surprised me more than her. Now here is Nonia Knitters. The woman on the right, amazing, is a First Nations woman. And she wanted to meet me as bad as I wanted to meet her, because she wanted to know about Coast Salish knitters, which were First Nations women. And I wanted to know about Nonia knitters. And this woman here with the blue around her neck is Joanne. And she took us around to meet these Nonia knitters. And this is a group of knitters in Nova Scotia that started knitting together and selling their wares to pay for their nurses, because there was no health care in Nova Scotia. I mean, in Newfoundland. And it's quite something. It's an amazing story. And once a bunch of women start knitting, they can't stop. They don't need it anymore for their nurses, but they carry on. And Nonia knitting has become a Newfoundland treasure, just like Cowichan sweaters became a treasure here in BC. So it was a neat bookend to an amazing tour. And it was awesome to have an Indigenous woman take us to meet these knitters. Oh my gosh, it was amazing, and get their knitting stories. And we went to the outports. This woman got all dolled up. She lives in in a little town that has about 4 houses, and made us tea, and it was amazing. Another one, same thing. She was these people live way out in another one, and we talked knitting with the Nonia knitters. Perhaps the highlight of the whole thing. I just wanted to do this because I have knit in the north as well. This is Hay River. This is the Hay River Knitters. Not on this tour, but earlier. Real quick, what am I doing now? That's Adam. That's one of the sweaters I knit for him as a MLA. He says I have to wear knitted things when I'm doing my work. There's some of the work that I've done. I like felting knitted things, so My daughter and I, we make felt hats. Whoops. And felt purses. I think I see somebody out there with a felt purse behind them. I think somebody has one of these. You've made one, somebody out there. I saw it flashing by. And I like making felt rugs, knitted felt. And I know the felters in this crowd will say that's not felted, that's fulled, but it's true. Knitted and then fulled is another fold rug that I've made. And I like making felted pillows or fold pillows. I just got to show you the family. We did that book. That's my granddaughter, Yetza, who now the next Yetza, but now she's like 25 or something. So she's full grown. There's one of the felted bags that we make. The last book I wrote was with the beautiful Nika and her mother, the next generation of Coast Salish knitters, Nika's Knitting Needles. And that's it, because it is now 10 to 3 and I want to stop talking and see you. So I'm gonna stop this. There we go.
There we all are. Well, not everyone, but a large part of us. Great. Thank you so much, Sylvia. That was fantastic. Got a little road trip feel to it, and nice to see other parts of Canada and hear about them as well. Just to go back to a couple of the questions that kind of came up during the conversation, the woman that you were asking about, that you showed us the picture and challenged us to find out her name. Is it Paula Lishman?
Paula Lishman, of course. Yes. It's Paula Lishman.
Yeah.
And she's really worth looking up, everybody. And she has a whole other take on wearing beaver. It's sustainable beaver, and it's a brilliant thing that she does. And I know some of the indigenous trappers who sell to her that have a sort of a sustainable trap line. So it's very cool. It's really worth looking up. It's a great Canadian story.
And there is a link shared here on the site in the chat box if anyone wants to copy that and look it up later on. So I'll scroll through and see if there's any questions.
And Glenda, I love your hat. There it is.
Thank you. I did it with at your sister's house at the class that you did there.
I told people that came to the class, do not think you have a unique hat. There's at least 1,200 of them out there in the world, but there's one of them.
Yeah, I was one of the three with Glenda at your sister's house on that workshop. But I don't know where my hat is, actually. It's in my house somewhere, but I don't know where. That was a wonderful, wonderful time.
Awesome.
And I was at that workshop too. Elizabeth Henry.
Hi, Elizabeth and Carol.
Hi, Glenda. Hi, Lorna. Hi, Carol.
And Kathy Schultz has got one of those bags hanging over her.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Oh, beautiful.
And Kathy, you're my neighbor, aren't you?
Yes, just
around
the corner.
Just around the corner.
Yeah.
Hi,
Wonderful.
Sylvia. Hi, Barb. I met you in Tech in Scarborough at Nina's shop. So I don't know if you remember me. I live in Muskoka now. So and we had spoken at one point on Facebook, and you said you had a connection up here, I think in Port Sydney or something. You had a cottage here once.
Oh yeah, no, we had property just until Tex is Huntsville.
Huntsville.
Okay. Mary Lake, and and check this, everybody. This is my new husband. I married the first time when I was 17, the second time when I was 61. Yeah, that's different. And he gave me half of a lot in Muskoka. So I had this beautiful lot in Muskoka. We have since sold it, and we actually now have a crazy place on Saturna. But yes, exactly, Barb. Wow, yeah, that's lots of connections.
I'm glad to see that this is being recorded, because I did forward the post that was sent out by the publisher or Wendy I think. And I think there's a couple of people on here that I know, but I'm going to make sure that Nina sees it because I know you had a great time with Nina and you featured her in one of your pictures there.
Oh,
And she's since moved shop, but she's still in Scarborough. And I'm sure she would love to see this presentation.
and I hope I hope maybe she brings us out virtually and we'll do one there because we have tons of photos. And if I'd had more time, I would have said more about that amazing shop and the story of Nina and the story of her husband, her late husband, and the story of the women and how they supported her.
We
And
went there every day, almost every single day.
Tex said they got cookies and they have sofas and they just sit around all day. What are they?
It was like everybody's living room. It was a fantastic shop. Yeah, you couldn't. I missed it. I missed it a lot when I moved up here. But yeah, I'll have to pass on that you're recording this, and hopefully there'll be a link somewhere that I can forward to her for her to watch.
Awesome. And hello to Nina. She was amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
I'm looking forward to getting your new book as well.
Thank you.
Thank
In
you.
reference to the link, we are recording, so we'll put possibly the full version, if not a shortened version, on our YouTube channel, which is Sooke Region Museum. And I'll share the news that is up on the YouTube channel via our Sooke Region Museum Facebook page. So there will be updates. You can rewatch it and share it with friends and family. So thank you, everyone. And thank you for joining us from Scarborough. That's great. We do have a question here. And the question is, what is the relationship between buffalo wool yarn and patterns and the Cowichan knitters and patterns?
Oh, you so good. We actually, all of us here need to have a knitting. This wasn't really a knitting workshop, but we need to have a knitting story time. And I'm quite happy to do that with you at some point, because here's the questions that we can spend some time talking about. Buffalo wool. Oh, and I think I know Sarah Thornton. Were you not in one? Yes, there you are. Wow, this is so much fun. I can't even believe it. Mary Maxim, hey, old Canadians, we all know Mary Maxim. So that dates way back to the 40s. And what happened with Mary Maxim at some point is they created this wool, and it's not buffalo wool, it's sheep's wool, but they called it buffalo yarn. And it and I've got 6 strands, sort of more like cotton candy than yarn. And then they made these big bulky sweater patterns to kind of riff off off Cowichan sweaters. And they sold zillions of them, and we all loved them, and we all knit them. And then, which was one thing, the hand knitters knit them, and it's so good, the hand knitters knit them. However, what happened also is that people got into business knitting them, and then they started competing with the Coast Salish knitters, and it got all not very good. It got very not good at all. That's not very good English, but it was not okay. And but going across the country is this amazing thing, because I live with Coast Salish people that are just angry about all of that. If you even think to knit something, some people will get angry. But I went across the country, and the Canadians that you get just out of this little tiny space here, they don't know anything about that. And why would they, right? I mean, how could they, and why would they? And these white buffalo sweaters were beloved, even though there were some of these sweaters that we had the stories of that, they started out a size 46 and ended up a size 56, because if you're knitting with something like this, it has no body at all. It's just nothing. Just got to tell you guys that what I'm doing with this is I get this and I spin it through my spinner. There's my spinner. I spin it through my spinner. You're gonna not, we need to have another workshop to do this. And then I put it in this felting bag that I have, and I turn it into rug yarn. This like super thick, coolest yarn ever. Anyway, it's just one of the things that I like to do. But so that's my answer to that. So now the mills still make this stuff. They do still make it. It's beautiful wool, but then that's just not, it just, to me, it just doesn't work because it doesn't have enough resiliency. But yeah, so that's the relationship between, it's a relationship between Mary Maxim to White Buffalo that riffed off the couch and sweaters. And then what happened is there's tons and tons of White Buffalo patterns. Lots of Coast Salish knitters used those patterns. Lots of them did. So it kind of goes around a little bit. They didn't use the pattern, you know, the raglan sleeve and the big collar and all that, but they used the designs. Because if you're a knitter and you see a design you want, you use it. That's what you do. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we have some more comments here. Let's see. Go down. Oh, it goes up. The mouse works the opposite way I'm used to. We have someone who commented, such a moving story about the 2 sweaters worn by the Japanese interns. Those were, I think, the oldest sweaters that you found other than yours on your travels across. Yeah. Yes,
with the most brilliant story. There's a lot of sweaters that have amazing stories, and those two are quite something.
Nice. A few people have logged off. They just had to go. They said thank you very much. They've read your books. And do we have anyone with any thought to doing a podcast? This is Deirdre Morin.
So I don't know if the knitters out there know this amazing man who has this podcast that's called Cabin Boy Knits. And he just interviewed me for an hour and 15 minutes. Oh my gosh, you will have too much of me by the time you're finished that. But he was a fabulous interviewer. So if you look up Cabin Boy Knits, you will get he was a very, very good interviewer. So that is one, and I am doing a lot of interviews that I'm on Cheryl McKay, North by Northwest. I'm on the CBC syndicated afternoon show next week. My gosh. So I think you'll hear lots, but I'd be quite happy also to come back and do a more knitting focus. I also wanted to say that because we did talk, Wendy and I, that if you wanted a signed copy of the book, and if you bought it from Wendy, Tex said he would love to go, for the Sooke people in the midst, Tex would love to go out to Sooke. And if somehow around you can figure that out, I don't know if I've just messed you up, Wendy, but I would be quite happy to go out before Wendy sends them off to you, or you come to pick them up. And if you leave your name, I'll do that, that autograph thing in it, personalized, if you want.
For sure. Yeah, anyone can message me or email programs@sookeregionmuseum.com, and you can request the book, and then we'll just get an idea of how many that you can do while you're here, and then can go from there. So yeah, send the message, please. So I put that podcast in there for everyone to see, Cabin Boy Knits.
Yes.
So people can look that up. And maybe we could get, do you know what day you're doing the CBC interview with Cheryl McKay?
Cheryl McKay is going to be, I did it a couple of last week, and she says it's going to be up this Sunday.
Okay.
And then next Friday, is this syndicated thing, which is the first time I will have done a syndicated show. And apparently I have to be prepared to sit for 3 hours while people call in, and anywhere between 8 and 15 shows will go back to back to back. If anybody's done that, let me know what it's like, because it sounds pretty crazy to me.
It sounds intense, 3 hours, yeah. So we have, let's see. Oh, has your daughter restarted her retail store?
Right. No, but good news is she's building it new, and she's building it as part of an extension of her house. And she is almost like, she has been approved, and the money has not come, so that the first board has not been erected. So she is going to be building it this summer, and it's pretty much assured. So it is, wait for Salish Fusion. It is coming back. My daughter's getting a master's degree. She's an elected council. She does all of this. And if you ask her, Joni, what do you want to, that's that real cute little girl in the sweater. Joni, what do you want to do with your life? She'd say, want to run the sweater shop. I want to run the wool shop. That's what I want to do. So, and so does her 11-year-old boy. He said that's what he's going to do when he grows up too. And the other cool thing that's going to happen when Joni puts that shop up is there is one room that is being set aside, and I am going to open it up and call it my sweater museum, where my collection of old sweaters with their stories will be collected. So if you don't want to buy wool, you can come and just hang out with old sweaters.
Sounds wonderful.
Wendy, did
Yeah?
you say you put the link up for the Cabin Boy podcast?
I just put the name down. I just wrote Cabin Boy
Oh, okay.
podcast. Yeah, so I can look for that link if you
No,
like.
that's okay. I can look it up.
Okay.
But I guess the signed books are just for people who can pick them up, right?
Well, we can
Are
mail
you-
them too. The museum can mail them out.
We can go to your museum's website and look for it then? The message?
It might not be on our website. It'd probably be best just to send a message to the museum or to me, and then we can just facilitate that for you.
Okay, thank you. Because
Yeah,
I have my other one, my knitting stories, and it's signed too.
And Barb, where are you? I want to tell Tex.
We're in Bracebridge,
Oh yeah,
in Bracebridge, not far from Huntsville. No,
the integrate. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I think his family's from Scotland, right?
Tex McLeod.
Yeah, and I was born in Scotland, so I remember speaking with him when we met in the yarn shop in Scarborough. Yeah,
Fabulous.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
We have,
Sylvia,
one
Yeah.
more
is it
message here.
possible? I have a sweater that probably is 95 years old,
Oh
and I
no.
would very much like to get in touch with you.
Oh, absolutely. Please do. So,
I imagine it came from Sarslet,
oh my gosh.
probably in about 1927.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I want to meet your sweater. Oh, well, and you too, but I really particularly want to meet
All
your
right, I'll just give you a phone number. That's probably the easiest thing.
I didn't hear that. Oh, no, don't lose this woman. How come we can't hear her?
Was that Sue Johnson?
Yeah.
Could you speak again? I think we just didn't hear that last bit.
Could I give you a telephone number so that we could get in touch?
Yes, absolutely.
Would you like,
Yes.
do you want to do that now, or do you want to send me an email at programs and I can pass it on?
I don't think anybody's going to use it that doesn't want it.
I can send my email. Are you comfortable with email? And you can
Sure,
send
email's fine.
Sure,
Okay.
so send me an email and then I'll connect the two of you
Okay.
that way,
Good.
okay?
Oh my gosh.
So,
Oh my gosh. That is so cool. Thank you for that.
are there any more questions that people want to chime in on by either speaking up or writing in the chat box? We have a large number of people commenting and saying that they really enjoyed your talk. learning more about Cowichan sweaters, their history. Love your books, your stories, your writing, your present way of presenting. It's really heartwarming, and I'm not a knitter, I have to admit. It's something I do admire greatly, and I always think if I could only be this way, I would be a knitter. Not there yet though, so thank you for all of you who are knitters and for joining this and sharing that passion. It's really inspiring, and it's really great to learn the history of Coast Salish knitting, the Cowichan sweater, and to bring that into the thoughts of being a knitter and what knitting means. I think that's really interesting, and really appreciate getting that perspective on everything. So thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think Glenda Belinsky is checking out her pattern as she's knitting, right? As she's listening. No, or
I'm writing things down.
oh, okay, that's awesome. I thought, okay, there's somebody with her pattern up there.
No,
That's
no.
awesome.
And what I'm knitting on right now was too complicated to do while
Yeah.
I watch you.
Yeah.
I do have a question, actually, if you don't mind. I can't use wool because I'm allergic to the lanolin wool. So is it open? And I've always wanted to do a Cowichan sweater. I was born in Duncan and raised in Chemainus, so a lot of connections with First Nations people. And I've always wanted a Cowichan sweater, but they're made of wool. So is it okay, or is it sacrilegious to use something other, or I can use a superwash wool?
Well, in terms of, you can never knit a Cowichan sweater, so that way you're safe.
Yeah.
Nobody knit. Then the Cowichan knit or Coast Salish knitters, as my daughter says, we're not all Cowichan. We're from Sartlip too. They knit the Cowichan sweaters, but if you want to knit a big bulky sweater, there is wool. It's never quite the same. Not coming from a wool person, but there's big bulky wool, and you can knit a sweater that like there's lots of big bulky sweaters, and with designs. I can see Jackie has one hanging up behind her there.
That is the Mary Maxim buffalo wool sweater. It was my
Yeah.
grandfather. That's only about 40 years old though.
Okay, so Glenda, you will knit your own sweater, and it will be it's its own thing. And I don't ever get non-wool, so I'm not a good one to ask about what's a good acrylic or other type of wool, because
Well, I can use a superwash wool because of course the lanolin has been removed
that's
from
right.
that. But I didn't know if they came in a bulky enough, but I can investigate that. And I would love to take a workshop from you. So I think you should do one once we can all get together.
Yes.
You should do one out here in Sooke.
Yes, yeah, it'd be fun.
Thank you very much. It was
Thank
really
you.
interesting.
Thank you.
Great. Well,
Okay.
again, thank you, Sylvia, for your time and
Thank
being here with us today and showing us about your road trip and introducing your new book. And thank you to all of you who joined us from both near and far. It's been great to hold this space with you all as we talk about knitting and what it means to Canada, what it means to Sylvia, her experiences. So we'll be doing more of these Zoom presentations. If anyone is interested in anything more, please just watch our Facebook page for anything more that's new and upcoming. We will, like I said, post this on our YouTube page, which is Sooke Region Museum, if you want to share with your friends and family. And then because many of you are requesting in-person workshops and things like that, that's something that I can speak with Sylvia later on about. And we can just watch how the way of the world moves here and plan accordingly. So keep your eyes peeled for that and again, that'll be on our Facebook pages and Instagram pages. So you'll see that being advertised there if and when that happens. So thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Sylvia.
Bye-bye.
Bye.